His name is Kitty, or Papa is technically his name, but Kitty is really what he answers to. And he's totally black. And if I painted him all black, he wouldn't be that interesting. So instead, I mixed up the darks using color temperature. So where the light hits him, he's a warmer color. In shadow, he's darker and cooler colors. This is another version, same cat, same pose, just creating a more colorful version. If I painted him as he naturally looked, all you would see are two upside down eyes. So you can see how the more colorful you are, the better. So hopefully that will help you to do your portrait without relying too much on what you know about the animal or what their natural color is. If the animal is all white, like the one that's on my website, which was my brother's dog, and I gave him that portrait already, so I can't show it. But his little white dog, Biscuit, was very fluffy. And I painted Biscuit using tons of beautiful light colors, pinks, yellows, greens, blues, and then some overall white just to show where the fur is. And he came out really beautifully. If I had painted him just how he looked, again, you would just see his little black nose, a pink tongue, and a couple of eyes. So if your animal is all one color, think about how you can break up that color. Okay. All right. Let's put the photo side flat and down so that you can see the back of the paper. I'm using a really big pastel just to demonstrate this technique. And I'm going to color basically where the back of this image is. So the dog is on the front. I'm coloring on the back. It doesn't really matter what color you do this. I'm going to give everyone a chance to do that. Okay, now once you have pastel on the back of your photocopy, put your photocopy positioned in such a way that the majority of the animal's face is on your pastel surface. And you may want to tape it in place for a moment. Don't push down on the picture with your hand. Just set it gently on your paper. So I have the pastel side facing the paper. The next part is very important. Don't use a pencil for this. Instead, use a paintbrush or something that doesn't leave a mark. So I'm using the back end of a paintbrush like a pencil, and I'm going to push with just about the same amount of pressure that I would if I were writing with a pencil. And I'm tracing all of the details. And I'm just going along edge to edge and tracing every line. This technique, by the way, is something that we are borrowing from Renaissance artists. Whenever Renaissance artists had to do big frescoes, like the Sistine Chapel, for example, Michelangelo didn't want to make his mistakes in front of the Pope and everyone. So he would make very detailed drawings in his studio where he perfected the figures, made sure they were proportionate and as correct as he could. And then he transferred them to the ceiling using the same method. We are kind of skipping the drawing part and using a photocopy, but it's the same concept. In Michelangelo's days, those drawings were called cartoons. They later became the line drawings and simplified funnies that we think of as comic strips. Now, the reason we don't use a pencil for this is it marks up your paper and it makes it really hard to see the image. When you're finished tracing everything, don't move your paper. Leave your paper in place. You can lift up a corner and look and see if the image transferred, but don't move it. It needs to stay right there because we're going to be putting numbers on the paper. And we want those numbers to transfer as well. Now on the color as value chart, you'll see that the top row shows 5 values from dark to light. For the next part, you'll need a pencil and maybe a white pastel pencil as well. We're going to write numbers directly on our reference photo. So starting off with the 5, which is the darkest dark, I hold the paper and I look for areas that are as dark as a 5. In this case, it's the nostrils. So I'm putting a little 5 directly on the paper, which also transfers to my painting. The inside of the eyes, and maybe a couple of shadowy spots. But if your animal is pure black, don't use the number 5 for that. Use the 5 only for the eyes, the nose, or the mouth. Next is 4. 4 is not quite as dark as the 5. It's one step lighter. And the 4s are areas that will read like a dark, like this area on the muzzle, the other parts of the nose, the lips. So if the animal has black fur or is a dark color, then label that 4s instead of 5s because you want the fur to be really colorful. Remember the black cat. If you're having a hard time perceiving the difference between 5s and 4s and 3s and so forth, squint or take your glasses off. And that helps to simplify the values. Next, we're moving to 3s. 3s are a middle value. It's not a light and it's not a dark. It's right in between. So 3s are areas of the animal that may not be well lit or in shadow. Probably the tongue will be a 3 if you can see it, parts of the nose, most fur. Right. When you're ready, skip the 2 and move straight to the 1. 1 is the lightest light. It's a lot easier to see where the lightest light is. And I'm switching to an actual pencil to make the numbers on the 1 since they're so light. And this is pure white. You probably will only have a few areas that are pure white. When you have them in place, then make everything else a 2. Now that you've numbered everything, evaluate your photo. Where is the light coming from? On my reference photo, the light's coming from this side and it's hitting this whole top part of the dog. So I'm going to make this side warm and I'm writing the word warm over here to remind myself that this is all warm. This part of the dog is in shadow. So all the colors on this side are going to be cool. So I'm writing the word cool up here to remind me to keep everything on this part cool. Now, if your animal is lit from above, it'll be warm on the top, cool on the bottom. Squint and try to figure it out. So, first step, now that we're ready to paint, I'm going to start off with black. Most of us are afraid to go real dark, but we have to start off with our darkest dark. So, you can choose any dark from your 5 column, but I'm going to start off with pure black so that I have a really strong dark uh, basis of dark. So you don't have a whole lot of places where you have to fill it in. So I'm going to start by putting in the darkest darks. So choose whatever number 5 you want, or you can use more than one if you need to. And start by putting in those 5s. Next, I'm moving to the 4 value. So the 4 value can be anything in the 4 column. I'm going to start off by using purples. Now, these purples would all be 4s, but let's talk color temperature. This is true purple, and it's a color that I would use more for the middle part of the dog. Since this is the warm side, this is the cool side. This is a cool purple, which has a little more blue in it. So as I move away, oh, that is a little too gray. Back that up. Try something that has a little more blue. And this is a warm purple that is more of a magenta. And you can see the difference when I have the 3 of them together on the paper. So make your choices based on first the color and value, but also the temperature. Start off with whatever color you want. I'm going to switch to another one in a minute. Now, something that would be a warm or warmer uh, 4 would be green. Green is the same value as teal. They're still both 4s, but it's a little bit warmer. So I'm using it towards the middle as a transition color. I'm still on 4 and I'm switching to blue. This is a light, about a 4 value blue. Try to make your pastel marks follow the nap of the hair. So if the hair looks like it's smoothing down the face this way, make your strokes follow that pattern. That'll help create the illusion of fur.
Now, the fives and the fours are the most crucial part, so spend your time and make sure you have a really strong pattern of darks. It's the darks that will let the lights show up.
So the bolder you are with your darks, the better your lights will pop. All right. When you have your fours in place, and some of you may have already been done with your fours, some of you may be working on dark fur, and so it'll take a little longer. Take your time. When you're ready, we're moving to the threes. The threes are anything in this column. So for the cool threes, I'm going to use cooler versions of some of my favorite colors. This is a lavender, a cool green, and of course, I'm looking for teal. And then here's a teal that's about a 3 value. So these are the colors I'm going to be using on the cool side. Now, when you finish with your threes on the cool side, these are some threes I'm putting on the warm side. This is a pure, vibrant, intense red, orange, and pink. So I'm going to use these colors All right. When you have the warms, the threes that are warm finished, then pick one of your threes that you haven't used yet. So choose one, and this is going to be the background color. We want the background to be something that's a middle value so that it shows off your lights and your darks equally. I'm going to use this chartreuse color, which is about a 3. I haven't used this color anywhere else. So I'm going to use it right around the back and negative space paint the whole background. Now this means I'm going to have to go over my little note to myself on which side is warm and which side is cool. So I have to rely upon that I already have enough warm and cool to remind me on the animal. While you're painting, go in right up to the animal's fur and go over it to a point. You don't want to have a halo effect around the animal. You want to have the background go seamlessly up to the fur. When we put the twos on, you may be overlapping the fur in places. If your animal is fluffy, then the fur is going to overlap the background. So you want to have the background in place before you put that fur in. So it's a good idea to get that done now. Plus, it will really help show all of your lights and darks off well. Twos are pretty much any light color. So this is any color that has white in it. It's going to be lighter colors. On the cool side, I'm going to be using, let's see, some twos that look like this. This is a very light teal color, of course. Um, Maybe I'll switch to a light blue as well with that teal. And maybe a light green. So I have 3 very light colors for twos. And I'm going to start off on the cool side. At this point, it's really important to get that fur. So make your marks very linear strokes and follow the direction of the fur. All right, when you're ready for the twos on the warm side, I'm using orange and yellow. Can't go wrong with orange and yellow. You could use pink as well if you have a lot of twos. Now, when you have your twos finished, the last touch is ones. Ones are pretty much white with different color temperatures. So very light blue, very light yellow, very light pink. I'm only going to use two. I'm going to use a cool white, which is like a very light blue, and a warm white, which is a light yellow. So you'll finish up with whatever whites, wherever you have one, put in your lightest light, and then we'll move to the eyes. When you're ready to do the eyes, it's important that you have the strong pattern of darks around the eyes. So notice on this dog, he's got a lot of strong eyeliner on both eyes. So I'm making sure that I have the strong lines right around the outside of the eye and also the dark pupil on the inside. Now I'm just reasserting the dark using the same 5 that I did before. The eyes are the most important part on the animal because we humans, we put far more emphasis on eyes than the animals do. I think they probably think their most important part is the butt. But with humans, we look right at the eyes. So we want to make sure that they're really clear. So I'm reasserting the darks around the eye and then the dark pupil towards the center. I already put some of the background color in the eye. Usually animal eyes are shaded on top, so they're darker on top and they're lighter on bottom. I'm doing both eyes. So reassert the darks around the outside of the eyes. Make sure you have a real strong pattern. If they have any eyebrows that are dark, make sure you can see those. The eyebrows are very expressive on animals. All right, once you have really strong darks all the way around the eyes, then it's time to give them some dimension. So on the cooler side, I noticed that there is a very thin 3 in the eye that looks like a crescent moon, and it helps to give the curve right around the outside. Putting that in place. On the warmer side, I'm going to use a color that's a little brighter and warmer. I'm thinking orange. So I'm taking a mahl stick. That's not a good orange to use. I'm thinking pink. And I'm going to use just the edge of it to create that thin crescent shape right around the outside. Now that's a little clumsy. So I can come back in with the dark and clean that up, make it thinner. That's better. I also noticed that the highlights are not pure white. They're a combination of a few different colors. So I'm going to try some of the warms I used. I'm using yellow right now for the lightest highlight on the warm side. And then orange for another highlight in the top part of the eye. On the cool side, I'm using some, let's see, let's go with lavender. And a small touch of green on the top part. All right, that's my story and I'm sticking to it.